So, what a lot of people don't realize, what a lot of people don't even suspect, is that there is an intrinsic link between evolution by natural selection and economics. In fact, there is a significant amount of historical evidence that Darwin got his idea from Adam Smith. Josh, go away. 10 minutes in, 0 points made. No, we've already made some serious points because idiot gammas like you, if I hadn't pointed out all that, you would be claiming I don't know anything about it. Now you know better, and in fact, you're a little bit intimidated because you realize that you haven't actually read these books. You just make stupid quotes out of them, okay? This is necessary. So, and plus, you've just learned something. You just learned that there's an intrinsic relationship between economics and evolutionary theory. Now, Michael Shermer actually wrote a book about this that was really quite good. It's called The Mind of the Market. I wrote a review of it some years ago on WorldNet Daily, and he demonstrated the historical connection between classical economics and Charles Darwin's development of the theory of evolution by natural selection. And he drew an interesting analogy between the development of economics and evolution. And he noted how the sophisticated complexity of economics is a product of the same bottom-up non-design that evolutionists believe creates the complexity of living organisms. And so the implication that Shermer is making in the book is that divine intervention is no more necessary to explain the origin of this species than government intervention is necessary to explain the origin of a market economy. All right, so there's a direct relationship between those things. And that is why I am a significant and serious evolutionary skeptic. That's why I don't take evolutionary theory very seriously, because as a student of economics, I recognize that same logic at work. Now, there's another book that I wrote that is mildly relevant here. It's called The Return of the Great Depression. It's a flawed book. Some of my predictions at the end were wrong, but there are two very good chapters that address some of the concepts that we are dealing with here. And those concepts are related to backdated predictions, back-tested, I should actually say back-tested non-predictions, and the significance of very small errors and epicycles. No, this is not a God of the gaps. Oh, for crying out loud. Look, okay. Don't ask stupid questions like that, okay? Understand that most of what I'm going to say is stuff that you haven't heard before, that you don't know before. How many of you had any idea that there was a direct connection between economics and evolution? Not very many, okay? I mean, it doesn't even potentially have anything to do with it. So again, don't ask stupid questions. I find it irritating. I'm not going to ban you tonight because I'm expecting a fair number of stupid questions, but c'est la vie. Okay, so we look at the way that order spontaneously forms in an economy. And then we look at the way that order naturally forms in a species. Okay? And so the problem, though, is that what Schirmer is saying, and what he relies upon here, is that neither God nor government is needed to explain the phenomena, to explain the complexity. And so what he writes about is, he said, in their stead, natural selection and the invisible hand explain precisely how individual organisms and people, pursuing their own self-interest in their struggle to survive and make a living, generate the emergent properties of complex ecologies and economies. As we shall see, ecologies and economies are complex adaptive systems in which individual particles, parts, or agents interact, and so on and so on. And so he says, Charles Darwin and Adam Smith, each in his unique way, trying to solve a specific problem, together stumbled across an elegant solution to what turns out to be a larger overarching phenomenon, the emergence of complexity out of simplicity. Now, this is true. This is interesting. This is a very relevant observation. But the problem is that the tools that the evolutionists are using to try to prove evolutionary theory is those tools have already been proven to have failed in economics. Let's take the idea that you can use evolutionary theory to go backwards and predict what you're going to find. So you can look for patterns. You're going to look for the the development of the skeletons and all this sort of thing, right? Okay. That technique is often used in investing. It's often used in trying to work out what the patterns of the markets are. I actually developed a very sophisticated model of the markets that was so accurate that it not only back tested perfectly for 20 years, but I successfully used it to identify the very, very precise low in 2009, following the 2008 crash, that launched the big boom, the big bear market, not bear market, the big bull market that the stock market has been in since then, right? Fantastic, right? Wrong. Despite the fact that that model worked for 20 years of backdating, and it worked the first time it was tested, kaboom. Total failure. Absolute and total failure. No amount of back testing is an adequate substitute for a predictive model. And evolutionary theory does not provide any effective predictive models.